There is a specific type of person who walks into a room and tries to scream wealth without saying a single word. They're wearing the latest Balenciaga sneakers. They're carrying a logo-heavy Louis Vuitton bag. And every time they check the time, they make absolutely sure you catch a glimpse of their $10,000 watch. To the average person, they look successful. They look like someone who has made it. To the ultra-wealthy, they look like someone wearing a costume. Here's the thing most people never consider. In the world of the 0.1%, wealth is not a performance. It's a default state. Real billionaires are not scanning the room for status symbols. They're scanning for vulnerabilities in someone else's presentation. They spot the fake not by what is there, but by what is missing. Today, we are breaking down the 5 specific tells that separate the genuinely wealthy from those who are playing a very expensive part. From the logo trap to the anxiety test, we're pulling back the curtain on the invisible signals that the super rich use to vet each other in seconds. And stay until the end, because the 5th sign is the one that the fake rich almost always get wrong. It's the reason why the world's most powerful people can spot an outsider before they even open their mouth. The first sign is the most visible, and yet the most widely misunderstood: the logo to net worth ratio. In the luxury world, there is an inverse relationship between the visibility of a brand and the wealth of the person wearing it. The louder the logo, the more likely the person is trying to convince you of something. And the ultra-wealthy read that desperation the way a poker player reads a bluff. The fake rich treat luxury brands as billboards. They want every stranger on the street to know they could afford the entry-level products of a high-fashion house. The monogram belt, the logo-covered sneakers, the handbag with the brand name printed across the entire surface. These are advertisements, not accessories. They exist to broadcast a single message: I have money. But the ultra-rich operate in an entirely different universe, the world of quiet luxury. They aren't wearing Gucci monograms. They're wearing Loro Piana Vicuña or Brunello Cucinelli cashmere. To the untrained eye, it looks like a plain gray sweater, the kind you might walk past in a store without a second glance. To the 0.1%, that sweater is a $4,000 secret handshake. It signals that you don't need the validation of a logo because you belong to the class that already knows what real quality looks and feels like. Think of it as the difference between 2 kinds of buyer. The first walks into a department store and asks, "What's your most expensive belt?" He walks out with the massive gold H-buckle and feels like a king. The second buyer never sets foot in a department store. His belt is bespoke, made by a private saddlery in Florence that has been serving 3 generations of his family. There are no markings on it at all, but the leather quality is unmistakable to anyone who knows. No initials, no monograms. Just craftsmanship that does not need to introduce itself. This is the concept the real rich understand at a bone-deep level. If you're creating visual noise, you're compensating for something. The more you have to announce your presence, the less likely you are to actually own the room. But logos are just the surface. They're the first layer of the illusion, and honestly, they're the easiest layer to fake. What the ultra-wealthy really look for goes much deeper than the brand on your chest. Because wealth is not just about what you buy, it's about what you can afford to keep. And that brings us to what might be the most expensive tell in the world: the maintenance gap. The second sign is the perfection of the invisible. Anyone can lease a Lamborghini for a weekend to take photos for Instagram. Anyone can rent a designer suit for a single event. Anyone can borrow a lifestyle for 48 hours and make it look permanent. But the real rich don't look at the Lamborghini. They look at the things that cannot be rented. The state of the mundane. They look at the edges of your life. Is your $2,000 pair of shoes scuffed at the heel? Are the buttons on your blazer slightly loose? Is the screen on your latest iPhone cracked? Is your manicure growing out? These aren't vanity checks. They are system checks. The ultra-wealthy understand that real money creates a system of maintenance, a frictionless infrastructure that keeps every detail of your life in order, from the stitching on your cufflinks to the condition of your skin. When that system breaks down in small, visible ways, it tells the real rich something very specific. This person is spending at the top, but crumbling at the base. Real wealth does not mean everything looks brand new. In fact, the opposite is true. The fake rich want everything to look freshly purchased because they're trying to prove they just bought it, that the spending is ongoing. The real rich pride themselves on things that age with grace. A 20-year-old Barber jacket, waxed and re-waxed over decades. A vintage Patek Philippe that shows its age on the dial. A pair of John Lobb shoes that have been resoled 3 times and only gotten more comfortable. This signals something the fake rich can never replicate: Generational comfort says, I didn't just arrive, I have always been here. The private wealth advisors and $10,000 an hour fixers we discuss on this channel are trained to look for inconsistencies. If you're wearing a $50,000 watch but your teeth are not perfectly maintained, or your skin shows the telltale signs of high-stress neglect, or your nails are bitten down to nothing, they see a person who spent their last serious dollar on a single visible asset and has nothing left for the invisible system that holds everything together. And this extends beyond personal grooming. Look at the car. Not the make and model, the condition. A real wealthy person's Range Rover has been detailed inside and out every 2 weeks. The leather smells like leather, not air freshener. The tires match. The service history is immaculate. A fake wealthy person's leased Mercedes might look stunning from 10 feet away, but up close, the interior tells a different story. Fast food wrappers tucked under the seat. A dashboard covered in dust. These are the micro signals that separate someone who lives in wealth from someone who is visiting it. The third sign is one you cannot see at all. It lives entirely in language. The fake rich talk about cost. They say things like, "This was really expensive," or "I got an amazing deal on this." They frame every purchase as a transaction. The price tag is the story. The number is the flex. The real rich talk about performance and access. They don't care what the yacht cost. They care about its range, its crew-to-guest ratio, its draft for getting into shallow Mediterranean harbors. They don't talk about the price of their children's school. They talk about the lineage of the institution, the quality of its alumni network, and which headmaster personally approved their family's application. Listen to the difference. I spent $300,000 on this car versus the engine is a naturally aspirated flat 6, and the allocation took 2 years. The first sentence tells you someone is proud of the expense. The second tells you someone understands the world they're operating in. The first invites applause. The second invites a conversation among equals. The ultra-wealthy are fluent in a dialect that has no price tags in it. If you lead with cost, you're telling them that the money itself is still novel to you, and novelty is the opposite of belonging. There's another layer to this. The fake rich also misuse industry jargon. They drop terms like asset diversification and private equity into casual conversations, hoping to sound sophisticated. But they use these terms loosely, almost decoratively, the way someone might hang a medical diploma on their wall without ever having been to medical school. The real rich notice immediately because they live inside these systems every day. They know when someone is quoting a podcast versus speaking from experience, and they adjust their level of trust accordingly. This fourth sign is massive, and it's one that almost everyone overlooks. The fake rich are always hustling, visibly, loudly, relentlessly. They want you to know they are incredibly busy because, in their minds, busyness equals importance. They take calls during dinner. They check their phones every 90 seconds in the middle of a conversation. They double book meetings and brag about running on 4 hours of sleep. Every minute of their day is supposedly accounted for, and they want you to know it. The ultra-rich have the ultimate luxury: total unavailability. They are not busy, they are insulated. If you want to reach a person worth $500 million, you do not text them. You do not DM them on Instagram. You go through the gatekeeper, a family office, a chief of staff, a personal attorney who will take your message, vet your intentions, and decide whether it's worth interrupting their client's Tuesday afternoon. Here is the distinction that matters. Being busy is a sign that you are still working for your money. Being free is a sign that your money works for you. If someone is always available to grab a coffee and talk business, if they respond to messages within minutes, if they're personally managing every detail of their schedule, they are not at the top of the food chain. They are still climbing. The truly powerful are almost impossible to reach. Not because they are rude, but because their time is protected by an entire infrastructure of people whose sole job is to make sure only the right calls get through. That level of insulation is not a luxury you can fake. It requires real resources, real staff, and a real operation behind it. The fifth and final sign is the hardest to hide and the easiest for the real rich to detect. It has nothing to do with what you wear, what you drive, or what you say. It lives in your body language, your energy, your composure under social pressure. It is anxiety. The fake rich exist in a state of constant performative defense. They are terrified of being found out. This fear manifests in specific, visible ways: a compulsive need to over-explain their success, a tendency to name-drop associates they barely know, a habit of steering every conversation back toward their own achievements. They laugh too quickly at jokes that aren't funny. They agree too easily with people who hold power. They perform comfort in rooms where they clearly feel none. The real rich spot this through one simple lens: social ease. A billionaire does not need to tell you they know the owner of the restaurant. They simply walk in, and the owner, who has known their family for 30 years, quietly escorts them to a table that does not officially exist on the floor plan. They do not name drop because their presence alone is the credential. There is no performance because there is nothing to prove. When the real rich see someone faking it, they do not embarrass them. They do not call them out in public. They do something much worse. They exclude them, quietly, permanently, and without explanation. Because the fake person is not just unconvincing, they are a liability. They are chasing status rather than building power. They are one bad quarter away from a total collapse, and anyone who associates with them is taking on that risk. At the $10,000 an hour level, the most valuable thing you can possess is a clean record, not just legally, but socially. If you're faking it, you are a glitch in the system. And systems, by design, eliminate glitches. Now we arrive at the part that separates the viewers of this channel from the rest of the world. Faking wealth is a trap. It is a 24-hour-a-day job that pays nothing and costs everything. It drains your bank account, your mental health, and your relationships. Worst of all, it is a performance that the exact people you're trying to impress can see through in under 60 seconds. But here is the secret that the real rich have understood for generations. True luxury is the ability to be invisible. It is the power to walk through a crowded room and have no one notice you, while you own the very building everyone is standing in. It is the freedom of not needing a single person in the room to validate who you are. It's the shadow power we talk about in every episode of this series. And the irony is brutal. The person faking wealth spends more energy, more money, and more time maintaining the illusion than many wealthy people spend on their actual lifestyle. They are running on a treadmill that speeds up every month. New clothes, new watches, new cars to be seen in. The overhead of the performance eventually outpaces whatever real income they have. And that is when the whole thing collapses. The real rich, meanwhile, are investing in things you will never see on Instagram: land, trusts, private education, infrastructure, influence. They are building systems that compound quietly over decades, while the fake rich are burning cash on depreciating.